Welcome everyone to the December 3, 2021 meeting of the Memphis Astronomical Society. Once again, I'm your host, Jeremy Veldman, and we've got another outstanding program for you guys tonight. If you are considering getting started in the hobby of astrophotography, then this is a presentation you're not going to want to miss. It's a great hobby, but can also be very costly in terms of time, money, energy, frustration. And our speaker tonight is a veteran in this field who's got some very important information to share with you to help you get started on the right foot. So stick around for that presentation. Before we get started, just a few club preliminaries. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. So first of all, again, we are the Memphis Astronomical Society, and we are a nonprofit public service organization promoting interest in education in astronomy and related sciences. Our website is memphisastro.org. You can also find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. We're on Twitter and, of course, YouTube. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Again, special thanks to the now nearly 2,500 subscribers to our channel. Hope once again that you get a lot of value out of tonight's presentation. And thank you again for being a part of our community. If you would like to be added to our email list and join our community, you can do that on our website. Again, memphisastro.org. Just click on the join button. It's in the upper right or in the lower right, and it will take you to a separate form. You just fill out your details. You can also go to the website, joinmas.com. Just enter your name and your email address. And once again, we'll add you to our email distribution list. We send out notices about once a week regarding upcoming meetings, observing sessions, public outreach events, just anything related to what we do in the community or astronomy in general. So please take a moment to join our list if you're not on our email list already. Calendar, going to be kind of a quiet month. Again, we're getting into the holiday season. Want to take a moment again to wish everyone a happy holidays, happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We are scheduled to be at Burton's Sugar Farm tomorrow night. The advanced forecast is not looking promising once again, but again, we'll send out the official go, no-go notice tomorrow afternoon, depending on the weather. We also had an event at Pinecrest, which likely again will be clouded out. And that's pretty much it for the rest of the year. But keep an eye on your email if we schedule an astrophotography group meeting or another observing session, we'll let you know. But again, we're getting into kind of the heart of the holiday season, and I know everybody's distracted with either travel plans or family plans or Santa plans, whatever your holiday plans are. So we're kind of wrapping up 2021. It's been another great year, but we will be hitting the ground running very soon again with more outreach events and more observing events. So definitely keep an eye on your email and also check out the calendar link on our website.
Jeremy, we will not have a astrophotography forum this month.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We'll resume that next month.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Rick. And for outreach, again, we've got a form on our website. If you are interested in our services for an outreach event, whether it's a school, a library, or just a private group, just go to schedule talks/telescopes in the upper right. And we have a detailed form. You don't have to fill out every field, but the more information you can give us, the better equipped we'll be to service your needs. And again, it's all weather pending. It's one of the frustrations and challenges of astronomy is it's completely dependent on the weather. So we've certainly had our share of postponements, rescheduling, and outright cancellations. It can be a little challenging, a little frustrating at times, but certainly if you're interested in our services, fill out your details. Our calendar is starting to fill up as we get into next year. I think 2022 is going to be another busy year for us. So, but we would certainly be interested in any outreach activities or events that you are interested in, whether it's telescopes and observing or a presentation or anything, or a mix of the two. So check that out on our website. Okay, I want to take a moment to acknowledge some of our new members. And once again, I won't put anyone on the spot, but I just want to call out your name and welcome you to our organization. Jack Wilkerson Jr., you were approved on November the 10th. Jack, welcome to the Memphis Astronomical Society. Keith Shelton, also approved on November the 10th. Keith, welcome. We're happy to have you a part of our community. As well as Julie Caldell. You were approved November the 12th. Welcome, Julie, to the Memphis Astronomical Society. And Ronik Niak, I'll do my best here not to butcher this name, but you were approved on November the 17th. And welcome to the Memphis Astronomical Society. Happy to have you on board. And also Christopher Dione, who was approved November the 23rd. So just take a moment to give everyone a virtual applause and welcome you to the Memphis Astronomical Society. And of course, when you become a member, you get access to the Meteorite, which is our newsletter. We send this out once a month. So check out this month's edition as well. And just a couple of outreach/observing reports to share here. We did have a partial lunar eclipse last week, and we mentioned this at our last meeting. The weather actually cooperated. The advanced forecast was not looking promising. We thought it was going to be another cloud out, but it actually turned out pretty well. And we say partial, it's actually 97%, which is good enough for a lunar eclipse. That's essentially a total eclipse, not so much for a solar eclipse. A 97% solar eclipse is basically a partial solar eclipse and you miss it. But 97% lunar is still really good. So now Brian and I did have the opportunity, Brian Hancock, to observe this at Burton's, and it was quite a night actually. So we took several photos as well as videos, and it was very intriguing to be at a dark sky site and watch a lunar eclipse. And you know, you can watch this from your driveway. You don't need to be at a dark sky site to observe the moon. But during a lunar eclipse, what's fascinating to observe is the change in the sky and as well as the landscape when you go from a full moon to basically an eclipsed moon. And that's what we were mostly intrigued by. You know, what would the contrast in the sky be? Would the stars come out? Would we be able to see the winter Milky Way? How dark would it get? And we were really fascinated by that transformation as we got into mid-eclipse. And yeah, we had quite a night. It was quite an experience. You can see a couple of photos here. Here's one Brian took of the eclipsed moon around 3 o'clock in the morning Central Time. Again, right here, just the reddish orange ball near the Pleiades, and then actually caught a meteor streaking across Orion near Betelgeuse. So
is that a single shot, Brian? No, okay. About to say it's. You're muted.
Brian Hancock.
Yeah, it's a composite, Rick.
Still very nice. Excellent photograph.
Yeah, I thought the meteor was a nice touch. And he also caught this one at mid-eclipse as well. You can see the
Pleiades.
eclipsed moon juxtaposed against the Pleiades. Just a fantastic shot.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's also a composite of 2 photos. Yeah, it's
still
not
very
even a
nice.
single
Very
shot.
nice.
Beautiful shot. Now, the other thing we were intrigued by, and Brian measured this as well, was the SQM reading just before the start of the eclipse and then comparing it at mid-eclipse. And so we took these readings as well, or he took these readings. And we did observe quite a change in the sky. I mean, it essentially was transformed from a bright full moon where the entire sky was washed out at the beginning of the eclipse to a dark sky site. I mean, if you had a Dobsonian, you could go after deep sky objects during mid-eclipse. So that was really, really neat to see. And then the SQM readings changed from 17.8 to 20.88. So it got noticeably darker as we got to mid-eclipse. And then this is something I was not knowledgeable about either, but Brian did some reading on this. Turns out there's a scale called the Dijon scale. His name is Andre Louis Dijon, I think is his name. He's a French astronomer. And in the 1920s, he came up with this scale for measuring essentially how dark the moon is during mid-eclipse. And there are different factors that can contribute to that, largely due probably to atmospheric effects. But anyway, here's a shot Brian took at mid-eclipse around 3 o'clock in the morning and measured about a 2.5 on that particular scale. So it was not only a cool eclipse to watch, but actually we did a little science. He did a little science. I did more watching.
Don't you hate it when you learn something?
I love it. I was not aware of this particular scale, so it was a great night. There is a video of this on our YouTube for those of you who are interested in watching. Howling coyotes and all. And we've got a comet. Again, we talked about this. Comet Leonard is essentially peaking this month. And Brian dragged me out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning to go observe this. We snapped this shot. He snapped this shot this morning at about 4 a.m. in the binoculars. And you can see here, Comet Leonard juxtaposed with M3, the globular cluster that's streaking right by. So it was pretty cool to see that this morning. And I think we've got a few more shots at this, but it's getting lower on the horizon, even though it's going to be brighter. So I'm not sure how favorable our forecast is, but it was pretty neat to see this as well. And our speaker tonight, Dr. Brian Ottum, shared this picture earlier today of a shot that he took, I think, a couple of days ago of Comet Leonard. So the tail is pretty impressive, as well as the bright coma. So you can check that out on his Instagram page. In fact, I'll just go ahead and click on the link here. So I got to log in. I don't know why it logged me out. Anyway, Comet Leonard. Not quite as good as NEOWISE, but still pretty good. Okay, fall elections. So we're wrapping up the nominations as well as the board for next year. And again, we closed the nominations at our last meeting. And this is the meeting where we officially announce the board members for 2022. And so to do that, I'm going to turn it over to Rick Honey, who's the chair of the nominating committee. So Rick, go ahead. I'll go ahead and stop my share and you can take it from here.
Right. So at the end of the November meeting, we closed the nominations for officers and directors. And at that time, we had Jeremy Veldman as candidate for president, Mark Matthews as candidate for VP observing, Rick Honey as candidate for treasurer, Sarita Joshi for secretary, Freddie Diaz for VP of programs, and then in our director slots, Ann Viano, Steve Wright, and new to the board would be Merrill Miller and Andrew Ward. Everyone else is currently in those positions. Being that we don't have a full roster of people, and or even if we did have a full roster, but no seat is running opposed, then the officers and directors would entertain a motion by a member of the MAS to accept this roster of officers and directors for next year, calendar year 2022, to be accepted by acclamation.
So moved.
Sorry?
I said so moved.
All right, very good. And I need a second.
I second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to accept this roster by acclamation. So congratulations. The new the new suckers, Merrill and Andrew, and many thanks to Steve Ermert and Brian Hill and Eileen Rudstrom, who were a great help last year, and for a couple of them more than just last year. And your service, your help, and your camaraderie was very much appreciated. So thank y'all very much, and we'll continue on.
Okay, thank you, Rick. This is your last chance to fire me as president. Speak now.
Well, no, technically, they don't have a chance now. It's done.
It's done.
Now, next November, they can try again.
You got 11 months. You're going to hear my voice for 11 more months. Think about that. Ugh. All right. Thank you. And welcome to Merrill and Andrew. We're coming on board next year. You guys are going to make a great contribution. And yeah, 2022 should be another fantastic year for the Memphis Astronomical Society. We may get some clear skies. So thank you again. And thank you, Rick. Okay, I mentioned this before. I'll just mention it again briefly. If you are interested, not necessarily in serving on the board, but just being involved in some capacity, we are looking to form smaller teams to tackle specific tasks in these areas. And we already have an outreach team. They've done a fabulous job. They're going to have their hands full next year. We're already booking the calendar into the spring. But in addition to that, the finance part needs some help. We're looking for somebody who's proficient in QuickBooks to help Rick with the treasurer tasks. Programming, we're always looking for people to recruit speakers, excellent speakers like the one you're going to hear tonight. Publicity, of course, exposure, telescope mentoring, that's kind of coming together. And then we've made some progress on legacy, as well as any other committees or organizations that should need to be formed. It's one of those challenges where there has to be some structure in place, but you don't want to put too much structure in place to kind of confine people and hinder them. There's got to be creativity and freedom for people to participate without feeling like they're being held too accountable, because it is a volunteer organization and we're all busy with our jobs and our businesses and other parts of our lives. So, any contribution you're willing to make in either these areas or any area that you think needs to be improved. We have some people that have really stepped up this year and really helped give a professional outlook and feel to our organization. So, when people make a contribution, just really great things happen. So,
especially if you think we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, definitely let us know if we're doing something wrong. So, and we've heard that too. Plenty of it. So anyway.
I got to be a scoutmaster once.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to the Warren Astronomical Society. And if you're a sucker for good content like I am, definitely check out their YouTube channel. I've watched several of their presentations. This is kind of the unintended consequences of the COVID culture and the Zoom culture that we've been in the last couple of years. Is more of these astronomical societies are posting their meetings online. Of course, we're one of them as well. But they've really got great content in their meetings, and they're less structured. But so there's more of a conversation, there's more dialogue, and it's pretty intriguing to watch. So if you're looking for your astronomy fix beyond what the Memphis Astronomical Society can provide, definitely check them out. Again, they're in Warren, Michigan. They've been around for about as long as we have. I think about 60 to 70 years old, and have some very intriguing members, including our speaker tonight. In fact, that's how I found our speaker. And he also has a YouTube channel. So Dr. Brian Ottum, and check out his channel as well. Subscribe, show him some love, and check out some of his videos as well. So with that, I will go ahead and introduce our presenter for tonight. And tonight's program is on how to get started in astrophotography and not break the bank. And our presenter tonight has been an avid amateur astronomer for approximately 50 years now, launched by seeing, of all things, a lunar eclipse. And he's done a lot of different things. He's seen over 4 total solar eclipses. He spent a summer at Bryce Canyon National Park. He's a member of 6 different astronomical societies. I don't know how he can juggle that many balls, but that's fantastic. And he's also co-authored a paper on a comet nucleus research paper, and he has a remote observatory in the New Mexico desert. So he's done some very exciting things. And above all, I think he has some important information to share if you are interested in getting started in astrophotography. And again, it's a fascinating hobby, but you've got to get started the right way. If you get started on the wrong foot, it can be costly, it can be time consuming, it can be frustrating, and it can really sour you on the whole experience. And we want to make sure that you don't go down that path. So that's why I really wanted to get this presentation to you tonight, because I think he's got some invaluable information to share. So with that, please help me give a warm welcome to our presenter tonight, Dr. Brian Ottum.
Thank you, Jeremy. Wonderful introduction. And thanks to Nick and Freddie who helped get this thing rolling. I'm going to do a presentation where I aim more towards the beginner end of the scale rather than the intermediate or advanced, but we'll have questions. Now, Jeremy, how do we want to have people ask questions? What's best? What do you like?
Usually we save the questions until the very end. So if you have questions, just put them in the chat.
Okay.
Or write them down, and then we'll have a Q&A afterward. That way you get through all your content.
And so, yes, I'll ask everybody, put your questions in the chat. We're going to talk about in the end. And just like the youngsters say on Reddit, it's going to be AMA. Ask me anything. Okay? You can ask me anything you want. So, okay, I'm going to get rolling here, and I'm going to share my screen. How's my audio? Okay? Is this loud enough? Okay.
Great.
Okay. So, yeah, we don't want to break the bank. I've been doing the visual thing for almost 50 years. I got into the astrophotography thing, and I found that with astrophotography, the highs are higher, but the lows are lower. So, but everybody wants to do it, and they should, because it's cool. You're creating. And so I want to talk about how you can create, how you can get going on this thing. And what is exciting is that it's changing so fast, and there's more and more technology helping, but a lot of things stay the same. So I'm going to talk about just how to do things without having a lot of frustration, and how to not really spend a lot of money. I really want to orient people's viewpoint, or reorient it. So myself, yes, like Jeremy said, I saw a lunar eclipse back when I was about 12, and I just got bigger and bigger and bigger telescopes until I got a telescope that hurt my back. And that's usually the case. You know, you finally hurt your back and you say, okay, that's too big. But but it's been a wonderful route. And but I got a digital camera, and probably about when they first came out with digital cameras, that's when I got started. And because I didn't want to do the CCD thing, did not want to do the CCD thing. I am lazy. I want simple, quick. And so when the DSLRs came out, that was it. So I was hooked back then in like 2004. So that's what I did. And now, and Jeremy did mention, I have a remote control observatory. So about 8 years ago, I put all my chips in the middle of the table, and the telescope there on the left, that's mine. And it's a modest 10-inch reflector, but it's got a fancier mount now. I got the plane wave mount, but it's in a telescope ranch in New Mexico. And if you want to hear all about that and the whole remote observatory, we can do another presentation at another time. Okay. Or you can just look at one of my YouTube videos, like Jeremy talked about. Any of my YouTube videos, usually at the beginning, I have a 2-minute video that goes into an aerial drone shot of the observatory in the desert, and shows you exactly how it all works. And and it gives the whole history of that. So, and that's another trend that's really exploding. People are renting time and they're joining partnerships. And so the price, the astronomical price of these things is starting to slide down a bit, and that's great. But that is for advanced people. We're not talking about advanced tonight. We are talking about keeping it simple, getting started. And so there's the YouTube, there's my Instagram. All right, 3 things. Focal length equals difficulty. Don't forget. So if you are starting, what focal length do you want to start with? Short focal length. I tell you, I put this number 1 is because I see people just have their hearts broken by spending thousands on jumping in at a high focal length and jumping into the deep end of the pool, and they don't know how to swim. And it's just not good. Number 2, equipment is just a small part of the success. Yet, I don't know. I go to these meetings. I'm a member of many clubs. I do a lot of presentations, and everybody loves to talk about equipment. Oh, we're so excited. My new camera. I can get better pictures. If I just get this thing, I can get better pictures. Not necessarily. No. And in fact, equipment costs money. There's other things that are more important that don't cost money. Do those things, especially if you don't have a lot of money. The best astrophotographers I've met are the ones who don't have money. And then I'll just try to give you a recommended path. If you're just starting out, I'm going to tell you what I'd tell you to do, but you're free. People are free to do whatever they want. So I published this before, and people scratch their head, but everybody thinks equipment's the most important thing. It's not. It's not equipment. Equipment's only about 30% of a great shot. You got to have right location and timing is 10%. Equipment's about 30%, and then knowing how to use it. Holy cow! Technology is very, very difficult, and it takes time to really know. And it really takes a skill to touch and work with and get the most out of your equipment. And that is, again, costs nothing other than time. And composing a shot. That's the artistic part, and we sometimes don't have much choice. But we saw some nice pictures that Brian took earlier that had great composition, and so that's another thing people totally ignore. They just say, "Oh, I'm just going to put it right in the middle." No, you don't put it right in the middle. And then, but the most important thing, and they'll let hammer people over and over. The hammer is the red. Post-processing is more important than anything. How much does it cost to do post-processing? Well, not a whole lot. The software, yes, but it's the time. And I've learned this so much. I've taken pictures that were crappy pictures from 15 years ago, and now I know post-processing better, and I can make them into a pretty good shot. And so that doesn't cost money, it just costs time. So I'm just telling you folks, concentrate on the things that don't cost a lot of money. Everything other than black here is not expensive. Okay, so concentrate on, if you're a beginner, on these other things. All right. This is like climbing a mountain, astrophotography. It's a learning curve. This is the mountain you climb. You learn, you have more fun, you climb up. You take a great picture. Oh, that was cool. I'm hooked. And then you try to get more, and maybe you have a little more difficulty, and you try to do something else. And you just climb up and up and up. And that's the fun part of the hobby. It's a challenge. It's not easy. It's not easy to take a picture of space. And so these pictures kind of represent that climb. The lower left is what I would call a rather easy picture. It's a camera on a tripod. But hey, I was in a nice spot, right in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. But from an equipment standpoint, this was very modest. All right. And then Orion, okay, that took a little more. I had to track, right? I had to get a little more long exposure. It took more skill, more time, more expense. Then taking a picture of Orion. Oh, now I need a big telescope and a tracker. And then finally, Andromeda and other galaxies. That's usually the pinnacle of what people want to take pictures of. And that's the toughest thing. Costs the most money. It's the most difficult. You need the most focal length. So I try to tell people, don't jump up to the right to start. Stay down to the left. Start there. You can progress through it if you're bored by the wide angle stuff. Yeah, but at least master that, because you're going to master those processing skills on the lower left that will suit you well when you get to the upper right and you want to spend some money. So nightscapes, constellations, big galaxies and maybe nebulas, and then finally small galaxies in the upper right. That's going to cost you the most. You don't go there first. There's the focal lengths, and so wide angle on the left, telephoto in the middle, and then big telescopes and huge telescopes on the far right. Phone, our phones are shocking. I'll show you some pictures that it's shocking what phones could do now, and what our phones going to be able to do in just 2 years. I mean, they're going to have tracking, right? I think Apple is starting to have some tracking now, but there's going to be more and more tracking, more and more ability to stack, more and more ability to do time lapses. It's very exciting. So you don't have to have a camera. You can just have your phone. Rough cost. People always ask how much things cost, and you can start with $100. You can start with just the phone that you got, right? That costs nothing, just the phone you already have. But it quickly adds up. So if you do want to get pictures of nebulas and galaxies, and small galaxies, you could easily spend $10,000. Now you can argue over where the 10,000 line is, but it's kind of a logarithmic curve, isn't it? Almost. But you don't have to spend a lot. You can still have lots of fun and not spend much. And so what's the equipment? Usually you start out with a DSLR or a mirrorless. And this is a very inexpensive way, and you can buy them on the used market because us fanatics are always trading up. And so there's stuff available, Astromart, Cloudy Nights, other eBay. You can get a used DSLR or a mirrorless. That's a wonderful place to start. I really like that. I could be talked into having an alternative path. I'll talk about that. If you just don't want to start there, fine. I got an alternative way for you to start. Trackers, $300. Holy cow. There's some wonderful trackers out there for $300. I mean, I'm just blown away at what's available out there. And then there's kind of a dividing zone. Now it's kind of a jump. Once you say the word telescope, oh boy, I'm spending more. Okay. And so I just want people to be very careful about putting a camera on a telescope. The worst thing you can do is, and this has happened over and over and over, is I have friends, at least 5 of them, who said, hey, I have this telescope, it's a SCT, it's an 8-inch f10, and it's a great scope, and I'm going to take pictures with it. And I asked them, have you taken pictures before? No. And I'm just like, that's a recipe for disaster. That's 2,000 millimeters. Okay, we go back. 2,000 millimeters is an 8-inch SCT, a meter celestron. Okay, you're starting on the right. I told you not to do that. And I was at a star party one time, and I watched the gentleman next to me, camping next to me, for 2 nights. He spent 2 nights. He got nothing. So you got to start simple, quick, easy. Camera on a tripod. This is what you can get with a camera on a tripod. And it's really fun. And those nightscapes are just a blast. And so especially if you've got the camera already, so many of us have one, or we can borrow one, a wide angle lens, and you're only spending $1,000 here, and you can get some great shots. So get out there, have fun. This is where I tell people to start. And near Memphis, I'm sure you've got a nice array of nice foregrounds, right? You've probably got some nice water bodies and nice trees, reflections, stars coming up over the water, trees, and other places. Just that's where I would recommend people start. You don't have to, but this is a good way to do it. And then the next step would be, okay, I'm going to get a telephoto lens, like one of these really great new 135, the Samyangs, the cheap ones, Rokinons, right? Rokinon from Korea, 135 millimeter f2.8, I think it is, or f2. I mean, it's an awesome lens for a low price. And that I've seen people. I have a friend she's starting her journey, and she just got a 135 millimeter, and she's got this awesome picture of the IFN, right? The galactic flux, the integral, all the cirrus that's around Polaris. She just got a shot near Polaris with this telephoto and took like an hour's worth of exposures in the dark sky, and she got all that wispy Sirius, and it's wonderful. And she's a beginner. So that's the next step. I go longer focal length. I stopped doing the wide angle, and now I want to go to more 50 or 100, maybe up to 200. But once you're up to 200 millimeter, now I got tracking problems, and it costs more money, more difficulty. I just got this shot from Michigan last year, and it was just camera on a tracker. Okay, camera on a tracker. It was a fast lens, f2, but maybe an hour's worth of exposures, and used all the tricks that I've learned over the years doing post-processing to bring out Barnard's loop and the witch head, right? So this is a blast, and this does not cost a whole lot of money. So really, I'll keep hammering on that. But hey, say, oh, I got money. Hey, I just got an inheritance. I want to blow some money. Okay, so I'm going to spend a lot of money. Okay, well then you now you're talking about a telescope, like a little red cat, right? Little refractor, a nice equatorial, but now you're thousands, and now we might need a auto guider. Oh, now I got to bring a laptop out there. Okay. Now you can see that we are bringing up the amount of stuff, the complexity, and the cost. And but if you've made the steps up the mountain to there, you'll be fine. But if you try to go straight there and you haven't done the previous, then you just got too many variables to control, and it's going to be difficult and frustrating. So I just want to tell people to have fun, minimize the expenditure, spend money in smart ways. And lastly, it's in the thousands of millimeters, fancy mount, auto guiding, narrowband filters. And if you really add it up, you can't really start even doing this for less than 10,000. If you do add it all up, laptop, software, and yes, I've seen people spend 100. And it's amazing because they want to really get pictures of galaxies, and they want to be published in Astronomy Picture of the Day. But we're not going to talk about that. This is a shot I got. It's a composite of up and down, top side, bottom side, with my scope, for like 5 hours on the top frame, and then 5 hours in the bottom frame, and then stitch them together. And I use Photoshop, and you don't have to. There's many softwares out there that you can choose, and they're getting better every day. But you can probably get a picture like this for several thousand or couple thousand. But galaxies cost money. I'm just going to warn you. It's a little bit harder, but they're more exciting. So, and then the smaller the galaxies are, the harder it is to get a shot of them. But it's certainly a lot of fun. And this is the M13, and it's taken with my telescope was born a Dobsonian, so this was taken with a Dob. So you don't have to have really super expensive stuff. I have the crappiest telescope on a plane wave mount in the world. I have a plane wave L350, and it's a really wonderful tracking mount, but the telescope I have on it is very low price. So that's just what you can do. Okay, what if I don't want to spend anything? Slew.com is a wonderful, fun website. The telescope, I believe, is in the Canary Islands, which is now erupting with a volcano, right? And they have a telescope there that you can control or you can sign up for and just tell them what object you want to take a picture of. And we're talking like tens of dollars. This is just very inexpensive and it's fun. When I lost the ability, when my telescope was broken and the roof wouldn't come off the observatory, I joined Slew and had fun doing that. And what's great about Slew is you can just get whatever pictures other people have taken, or you can you want to request your own galaxies, whatever. You can download them and you can process them yourself. So you can learn that valuable skill called post-processing and get the data, the pictures, for almost free. So I really recommend Slew, and there's probably other options out there. And so it's a wonderful way to start with. So really, if people don't have anything and really only spend a little money, this is the first step. And I think isn't Slew spending tonight on the comet? I think tonight was their comet night, or maybe last night, or it'll be towards dawn anyhow. But it's in the Canary Islands, right? So maybe it would be midnight here or something like that. I don't know. But Slew is fun. Highly recommend that. Okay, what if I only want to have my phone? Well, you can have a lot of fun with your phone and just sticking it up to the eyepiece. And there's a holder. There's a picture of a holder there. There's some fancy holders for $100, $200 that you can precisely hold the your phone's camera up to the eyepiece. It's a tremendously frustrating experience to handhold the camera or your phone. If it's off by 0.5 millimeter, you're not getting a shot. So you really need to have one of these holders to precisely put it right over there. But you can get great shots. I've seen friends get great shots of the moon, sun, planets, and then you can play with using the software inside the phone. You can do your processing. So I've got some shots recently. Those are all from, I think, this year. Oh no, there's Neowise from last year, right? Comet Neowise from last summer. And that's the eclipse from earlier this summer, right? And then that was during the winter. That's the winter Milky Way. And so these were all taken with the phone. And this is a Pixel 4. They just came out with the Pixel 6. And the iPhone 13 are wonderful for taking pictures. And like I said, every year they're making big leaps. And in 2 or 3 years, many of the things I'm saying could be obsolete. But I keep coming back to camera on a tripod. Great place to start, especially if you do have a DSLR or mirrorless, or you could borrow one or buy one cheap. It's great. Stick it on a tripod, get a wide angle lens, get a little intervalometer. It programs how long the exposure is. The red headlamp, you're ready to go. You have a lot of dew in Memphis, don't you? And you can go spend a bunch of money and get a big old battery and have a dew heater. No, you just get those little disposable hand heaters, the toe heaters, wintertime hand heaters, toe heaters, those that they're disposable, and just rubber band them to the lens hood. And that's good for 5 hours. So you don't need to have huge batteries. It's nice to have the dew control, yes. But if you don't have that, you can just use the disposable dew heaters. But this is a wonderful, the lonelyspec.com is a great website for that. So get out to a dark sky. You can do your nightscapes and just water and the reflection of the stars in the water. Fantastic with trees. And then it'll force you to learn the post-processing, and you can use free software for that, or you can spend the money for Photoshop, or if you want to get into it, the centerpiece software for post-processing for this field is PixInsight, and it's a wonderful, powerful program, but it's like committing to learn Mandarin. Okay, Do you really want to learn Mandarin? Well, if you need it, you're going to learn Mandarin, but you don't dabble in learning Mandarin. So I always tell people there's kind of a fork in the road. You're going to go down the Photoshop fork, or you're going to go down the PixInsight fork. And I don't see people switching in between. Once they do one, they do the other. But that's a whole talk right there. But the tracker's $300. So this is great if you've got the DSLR, the mirrorless, and you can go down and get pictures in one night. You'll get fun pictures. This is the settings. You know, just fast lens is everything. Fast, 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 fast. F2.8. Zooms. No. Do not use zooms. I mean, if it's all you got, fine. You can start with a zoom, but it's got to be a wide angle, less than 50 millimeter. But zooms are slow. They're like F5, F4 at the best. And there's a lot of lenses inside, and it really tortures the light as it passes through. And so the stars are not going to be really sharp and good with a zoom. Of course, if you spent $2,000 for a Canon fancy zoom, yeah, you're probably going to get a decent shot. But the zooms that come with cameras are poor. And stars are wonderful to display any imperfections in a lens. And there's many imperfections on the lens that comes with your kit. Okay, not good. So if you can get a prime lens, and I'll recommend some, the rule of 500, if you got no tracker, is if you have a 50 millimeter lens, you divide it into 500, it's 10 seconds. That's the longest exposure you can take, is 10 seconds. Okay, which means what's the longest exposure if you had a 500 millimeter lens, which is ridiculous. 500 divided by 500, you could take a 1 second exposure. So that rule of 500 is very good if you don't have a tracker and you don't want to spend money on it unless you have to. And so if you have a really fast lens, like some of these 1.4, I have a 1.4, I'm fine without a tracker. So, and ISOs, usually about 1600 or 3200. If it's hot, like in Memphis in the summer, you probably can only get ISO 800. So the hotter it is, the more noisy the picture is. So, but 1600, 3200 is usually pretty good. I told you about the hand warmers. That's my trick there. Beginners think that, I'll just put it on infinity. Infinity is not infinity. You're going to have to very, very careful focus. A lot of the cameras have this live focus thing, but basically you want to focus really, really, really carefully on a distant star or a street light. And I bring tape. I'll just tape it down so the focus doesn't change. Just put tape right on the lens. I found that sometimes heavy lenses, when you point them up, the gravity will just move the focus. So it's good to have the tape. Push the tripod feet down. Don't kick the tripod during the picture. Batteries are very important. And a trick is to set the tracker to half speed, half sidereal speed. If you got it, most trackers will do this. So this is a trick. If you want to get a nice picture of water and trees and the Milky Way, right? If you take an exposure that tracks the stars, the trees will be streaks. If you have no tracking, the stars are streaks. What do? Well, I could compose. I could put the two together, but that's a lot of work. I don't want to have beginners do that. But if you get a tracker, you set it to half speed, it splits the fuzziness between the stars and the trees. And if you do that rule of 500, you'll be just fine. So that's a good trick. Half speed, half sidereal speed. Great lens, the Nifty 50 for $100. I mean, it's even less than 130. The Canon version, wonderful lens. But I tell people, well, start wider. If you can go wider angle, they get the whole Milky Way in. This one in the upper right is a superstar. This is a superstar in the astrophotography world. The 14 millimeter f2.8 Rokinon Samyang, awesome, and I love mine. And but sometimes you need to buy one, test it, and send it back because their quality control is variable. But all you have to do is take a shot in your light polluted backyard, and you'll know if those corners are bad or not. Don't expect perfection. But you can go online, you can find out what to expect, but love that. And the new Tokina 20 millimeter f2, I think this is for mirrorless, Heard wonderful things about that, and it's expensive. But there's some wonderful lenses for the mirrorless if you want to go down the mirrorless route. And I recommend people, yeah, if that's interests you, then that's the mirrorless is the way to go. Trackers, tons of them. Don't need to go into this too much. $300, $400. The bottom right one is $500, but that's very stout. And so that thing that could probably handle a small telescope. Okay. And so that's the camera on the tripod route. Okay. But let's say I'm ready to do something else. Okay. Well, then you can get into these CMOS cameras that we have now. And I would say you buy a used one, right? These CMOS cameras, the ZWO, the QHY, right, are the two big brands. And like I said, us fanatics are always trading up. So you can buy the previous version from 3-4-5 years ago for perhaps less than $1,000. That's what you do. You buy a used one of these guys, and then you can use the narrowband filters and a tracker and a telephoto or a small telescope. You're spending about $3,000 to $4,000, but you can take pictures in your backyard in downtown Memphis. And so I could be talked into people telling me, hey, I want to do this first because I don't own a DSLR. I don't own a camera, and I don't want to really buy one. I have no interest in traditional photography. And so fine, you can bypass everything I just said, go straight here if you're careful, and you can get wonderful shots. Here's what my friend did. Look at that, simple tracker, stout tripod. He's got one of those ZWO cameras. I think it's the 071, which you could buy for what, $900 now? Something like that. It's a good camera. It's a great camera. And he attached a little finder to it, and he stuck on a telephoto. This is a wonderful, low-cost, beginner way. And look at the pictures he's getting in hydrogen alpha. These pictures in the upper left and upper right. These are hydrogen alpha shots from bad skies. Okay, this is bad where he lives, and he's got trees too, so he has to avoid the trees. So he's gotten some wonderful pictures, and it's very impressive. And he's just begun. He got these pictures within his first year, maybe 2 years. So this is also an alternative way. Is if you don't want to do the DSLR, you want to jump right in. Okay, you get yourself a tracker, a used camera, perhaps a telephoto lens. You got your laptop already probably, and you're ready to go. And you're not spending more than, a couple thousand, less than 3,000 total. And you can get some really impressive shots. You print them on metal. They look fantastic when you print on metal. So the post-processing, this is a whole presentation's worth. We're not going to talk about it, but this is the general the general steps you got to go through. You adjusting contrast, color, noise, sharpen, cropping, and you've heard about stacking and aligning and all that stuff. But basically, it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time. And I've had a lot of people who finally said, I don't like the post-processing. I like to get out there and take the picture. I don't like all this fiddling with the computer. And they usually quit, or they'll get a partner. The partner loves doing this stuff, but the partner doesn't want to spend the money on all the equipment and go out there and freeze, get cold. Okay, so that's that. I tell people many good websites, many. Astro Backyard is a newer young guy, does wonderful work. That Lonely Speck is an oldie but goodie. You can find tons on YouTube, and I urge you to get out there and just try them out, because there's just so much to get to. How do you find where it's dark? Dark Site Finder, Astrospheric, your club probably uses that. It's a wonderful website on the weather forecast. And it's really, really, really good. Everybody uses it, and there are others the same. But Cloudy, the Clear Sky Clock is an oldie but goodie. But Astrospheric is now a little bit better. So that's what you use to get out there. And so I'll wrap it up by saying, don't go too long in focal length. Start short. Don't spend money, spend time. Learn how to do the post-processing and all these other things, rather than spending a whole lot of money and expecting that magical chunk of money you spent to get a good picture. It's not. And so I've talked to you about climbing the mountain and starting simple and having fun. So I'm going to leave it there because I think we want to have lots of time for questions. But this is the type of shot, I'll end with this one. It's an easy shot, but it's fun. Look at that. You could take this near Memphis, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And this is a camera on a tripod. All I did was I had a little filter, right? I put a filter over the lens like a fog filter, and that bloated the stars up. That's it. It's easy. So I'm going to stop the share, and I want to get into some questions. Whatever Jeremy thinks as far as the length of questions, you'll have to stop it or whatever you want.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Yeah, we're just kind of open it up now for questions. You don't necessarily have to put them in the chat. If you have a question, just go ahead and enter it. And I'll start with this. Rick, I think we were on the right track earlier this year with the astrophotography group, focus group meetings, when you were focusing on the post-processing and kind of getting some familiarity with PixInsight and actually starting with the data, not necessarily capturing the image, but just getting into post-processing. That's a big chunk, learning the software and getting familiarity with the tool. And so that was kind of what we were working on earlier this year. So, getting back to the pie chart that you shared, that was pretty interesting that you mentioned. Really, the post-processing and the location and some of the other things are far more important than the actual equipment. So one question I had, forgive my ignorance, what is a mirrorless DSLR and what are some recommendations?
Well, the DSLR is dying for a couple of reasons. One, the big reason is these things are killing. But even before phones were great, having that big mirror inside that slaps and moves is inefficient and dumb. But we've dealt with it for all this time, is to have those camera with the shutter and the big mirror that moves aside. And so they've dispensed with that, and they make a much smaller camera that, and the nice thing about the old-fashioned camera is when you look through it, you're seeing exactly what the sensor is going to see, right? And you can look through like a little telescope, right? And it's beautiful. Now you give that up with the new mirrorless cameras, because you're forced to just look at the screen on the back. But they're the future, and Canon makes the R1, and Nikon has the same, and then Fuji has their Sony has the Alpha, and they're all three wonderful. And they started out with problems. They had the thing called, basically the stars would be gone. It would kill stars. The early mirrorless they had a star eater setting, and it would kill all the stars. But that's been fixed. It's so the mirrorless is really the newest version of cameras. And what's really nice is that they're a less bulky body, and they were able to design the lenses now to be more efficient because they fit closer to the sensor. Now you can the optician can design a much better lens. And so I tell people to get that if you have interest in regular photography too. But I have other friends who say, no, I really don't care about regular photography, landscape stuff or stuff like that. I'll use my phone. I just want to do pictures of space. Well, they're the folks that can jump straight into a CMOS.
Okay. So you don't necessarily need to get a DSLR if you're, like you said, just interested in astrophotography.
It's true. Yep. And I've just recently come to this position in the last year, because up until this year, I was trying to tell everybody, oh, you got to get the camera, got to get the traditional type camera, or the mirrorless. But now I say, no, if you really have no interest in any of that, or taking pictures of relatives or dogs and cats, or, well, our phones are great for all that stuff. But if I want to just go right into I really want to focus on astrophotography. Okay, then get yourself a camera. And again, used is wonderful. I really recommend used. Now, just to go back, somebody always usually asks about, hey, what about a modified camera? And I think we just have a question from Pradeep Singh about RA cameras. I think that's the Canon RA for astronomical, right? Because we had the 10DA and the 30DA. So yes, so this question is, should I get a modified camera or not? And modified means is that the camera has a built-in filter over the sensor, which takes away the infrared. And that's fine because our eyes don't really see infrared too good. So it just matches what your eye can see, and that's great. But you know what? A lot of great stuff in the sky has infrared. In fact, some of the best stuff, my favorite stuff, it has red. And so you really want to capture that. And so what we do is, and you can do it after the fact, you can buy a used camera, send it away, and then they will strip off that little filter that's in front of the sensor, and then they'll replace it with another filter that allows more red to come through, that deep red. And now you're going to get a nice pictures of Barnard's Loop, right? Barnard's Loop around Orion and these other really great things. And that costs about $400 to have that done. So that's one thing you can do. And then the RA camera, they did it for you. Canon did it for you. So it comes modified. And now if you just take a picture during the day with those and you're not careful with it, you'll get a pink, everything's pink because it's more sensitive to red. So daytime regular photography is a little problematic with these cameras. Not impossible. You just have to do your custom white balance, and you have to be careful and compensate for that red bias. But so the answer is, I think that's good. I would get the RA camera from Canon RA for a beginner, could be very good for taking pictures of family, dogs, cats, weddings, vacations. And you have these nice lenses now that they're designing for the camera. If that's if you want to do that daytime and nighttime, I say go for it. Get the RA, and just make sure you're good at getting the compensation right, so you don't have pink wedding pictures. So the bride doesn't look pink, and your bride wants to be white, right? So I think that's a good way to go if you want to do a daytime photography also.
Other questions? So the Orion shot that you showed earlier, what camera, what lens, what did you use to get that one?
That was a Canon 6D, the first version, because unfortunately the 6D2 is worse noise. So if you could buy a used 6D, anyhow, and then I had it modified for $500 by Hutek to be more sensitive to the red, so I could pick up Barnard's Loop. And then on the lens I think I used on that was my a Sigma art lens. The Sigmas are really good. These new Sigma art lenses are fantastic, but they're expensive. They're like, it was like $700, but it's f1.4. 1.4. I mean, you can see Barnard's Loop with a 10-second exposure. And so it's a 24 millimeter. So, but I could have gotten the same shot if I'd used that Samyang, that $300 lens. So yeah, it was the Canon 6D modified 24 millimeter lens on a tripod with a tracker that tracked it across the sky at sidereal rate for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
That Rokinon looks like a good lens. I know it's a
You
little
can
more
go,
expensive.
just Google it. You'll have people just falling all over themselves talking about how wonderful it is. And now Rokinon has made so much money on this. Now they have the 135, and that's good too. Although my friends has a little bit of distortion on one corner. and the smart people will test them and send them back, like I said. Yeah.
Other questions, guys? I don't want to hog all the time here. It
Did
doesn't
you
have to
say you were going to share your presentation with us so we can get the links? You had what looked like a lot of good links in your
Of course.
slides.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep. I'll do that. But Freddie asked the question, and then I also want to go back to your Pix Insight training, and I want to talk about that for a second. But Freddie asked, you said 5 hours. Is that 5 hours continuous, or you took several shots? Well, yes, you got to take little frames and you stack them up. That's the bottom line. That's really what we all do. Everybody does it, and out in the desert, I'm working at f5, and I can track great for 5 minutes. So I take 5-minute exposures. I could probably take 10-minute. I really should, but I end up having to throw some away. I don't like auto guiding, so I don't auto guide. I just do 5-minute exposures, and so that's how I got the shot. 5-minute exposures. That's 12 in an hour. So I needed 60 exposures to make 5 hours worth for that Andromeda shot.
I'm curious to know why you don't like auto guiding.
I'm lazy. I want to minimize the aggravation, minimize variables, minimize problems. And that's why I hated the meridian flip. I hate meridian flips. So I hated my Paramount. I also hated the Paramount because their customer support is minuscule. Don't get me started, but their customer support model is the software company where you have to have a ticket, and then you post your problem on their forum, and then other nitwits will offer you suggestions, and you can chase your tail for about 3 days until finally one of the Bisk brothers comes in and answers your question. So I have a mount that doesn't have any meridian flip.
That the new plane wave?
Yeah, plane wave.
Yeah, those things are wonderful.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're fantastic. They're ridiculously expensive, and that's the top of the mountain. Okay. But I just don't like to do. I don't like to have too many things. If I don't have to, I don't want to have a laptop. I don't like having a laptop outside in the dew and all that hassle and all the power and all that. I like to keep it simple. But that answers your question about the.
It does.
Another question from Pradeep Singh: of the two, monochrome and color, which would you recommend? That's a wonderful question because you have this dichotomy. They cost about the same. You can have monochrome or color. And it's a tough choice. Most people are going with monochrome. We'll just tell you that. It's probably 3-to-1 or 2-to-1. Because if you go monochrome, you can take your pictures from downtown Memphis, right by the pyramid.
Yeah.
I've driven through
pyramid
that.
or the DeSoto Bridge. That's another good landmark.
Yes, well, you could be taking pictures by the DeSoto Bridge with a hydrogen alpha filter and a monochrome camera, and you can get a darn good picture of the North American Nebula, right? You can get a darn good picture. It's amazing. It's miraculous. And you can't do that with the color. However, these new sexy tri-band filters are pretty awesome. The L Extreme, is that like $300?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've seen great pictures from urban sites with a color camera with that. So maybe we can do it all. Maybe that's the do it all. Then I would say you get your CMOS color, you use the tri-band filter in town. Then when you can get out, where it's dark, you take the filter off.
That's what I do.
Okay. Well, that's good then. Do you have the extreme?
Well, I have the enhanced. I don't have the extreme yet. So
I have the enhanced it as well, and I really like it. And it's good for the full moon too.
Yeah.
It really cuts the full moon. So and that's another thing is that, you know, if with a color camera, you're hosed during the full moon. Excellent. Oh, you are taxing that mount.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm right
Holy
at the edge
cow.
of it. Yeah. So that's an F8. This is 071 camera.
Great.
F8 Ritchie Cretion.
Yeah.
Their guider. This is all the ASI air controllers for
Yep.
everything. And this is a separate 5-inch Maksutov. It's like a 1900 millimeter focal
Yep.
length for planets, and then a 1-inch sensor for that, for trying to capture planets. This is a rig I've built for doing public live viewing.
Wow. Yeah, it's awesome. But this is you are way up the mountain there, guy.
Oh yeah, try. Yeah.
And I have a friend who's got something similar, and his young daughter calls it his observatory.
My wife would probably refer to it the same. Well,
Yeah,
what was it? What was it? I heard somebody say once. What scares me the most is that when I die, my wife sells my telescope equipment for what I told her I paid for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will tell you as an aside, I've just in the last 2 years gone through two people's helped two people's families with estate sales.
Yeah.
Wow.
My advice for everybody is get rid of it if you
Yeah.
can. Do not burden the family with highly specialized stuff that is very difficult to get rid of, because it will sell for pennies.
Mm-hmm.
Pennies.
Yeah.
That's just my little off-topic rant. Sorry. Now, Scott asked, okay, Freddie, the ASI Air, we just heard about that from Rick, and I've heard great things. Right? But it's not a magic thing that's going to get you better pictures.
Yeah. It will help you set up.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect portal alignment, very easy. And then you don't need a laptop.
I love that.
And you can guide in there. You don't need a laptop to guide either. And it guides with the same technology the laptop will guide.
I love it. I love it. And I've heard wonderful things about the QHY Pole Master.
Yes.
For quickly polar aligning. So there's so much technology out there. I know a retired professor here from the University of Michigan Astronomy Department. He just got one of those new EV scopes, and it takes the little
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
made in France, and it takes respectable little pictures. What's so exciting is that you can have like 8 people around it with their Bluetoothed in it, and they're getting their pictures on the phone immediately. It's
Wow.
it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So Scott asks, I'm going to be on a South America cruise. Can't afford a weight of a full system. Definitely do not bring a full system. Red Cat and DSLR. Recommendations about telescopes on a cruise ship. No. Do not bring a telescope on a cruise ship. No. Nope. Even if you could get off for, and I don't think you can get off for an evening, can you? You got to get back on.
It's a long cruise.
It's a long
There are
cruise.
there are long cruises, and there are a number of nights that are actually docked.
Still no. You're talking. You're trying to do too much. It's too much.
Even with a red cat, it's a smaller
The Red
scope.
Cat, it's a small scope. It's a good telephoto lens that I can use for many other things.
Well,
It's got a Sony. I'll put my Sony camera on it. It lines very nicely, and
What
it's
countries are
lightweight.
you going to?
What?
What countries?
Yes,
Why?
it's a circumnavigation of South America.
okay. So you can get a picture of the Tarantula Nebula.
Yeah.
So
I've never been
that's
to
worth
something
doing.
too.
That's worth doing. Yeah, the jewel cluster, the tarantula, all the stuff that we can't see here. So that would be exciting. Yep. If you just got to have a good tracker. So
But that's
Red
the thing
Cat-
that I won't have. So it's
How do you-
mostly going to be visual observing.
um,
And it may be a mistake, but but I'm thinking visual rather than tracking for astrophotography. So it has to be relatively short exposure, if anything.
oh, you're thinking about bringing the Red Cat and the DSLR to do your own little personal EAA.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's brilliant. I love it. Do that. Yeah. But I will tell you that the Koreans have this little miniature plane wave portable mount that's it's got what's called a strain motor, basically a direct drive. They're like $3,000. I don't know, maybe somebody else could jump in with it. Korea, $3,000 little, and it's just this little tiny drive that has a payload of like 10 pounds.
Yeah, but then I have to bring batteries.
Yeah, that's true. True. Yep. But just make sure that you can get acceptable pictures from the Red Cat in your DSLR with short exposures that don't require the tracking.
Yeah.
But that could be cool. That could be cool. Also, what about some of the night vision stuff?
I'll bring binoculars. I don't know about night vision binoculars, but I will bring the binoculars.
You
Well, yeah.
can't take night vision out of the country.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, it definitely is exciting. And for visual, I've heard so many good things about those ultra wide angle 2-power binoculars. I just today, one of my friends in Wisconsin talked to me about his. He's loving it, and so I've heard just wonderful things about just a 2-power. You know, they're just 2-power, 50 millimeter, are they? And they're just wonderful to be able to just see what 1 or 2 magnitudes fainter, and they're tiny. So that would be really good.
Okay.
Just to be able to see the Milky Way and the fainter stuff down there, the Magellanic Clouds.
Ryan's got a pair. 2 by 54,
That's it.
$154.
Yeah. Yep. But a nice pair of binoculars, man, that would be what I would bring. Well,
Thanks.
I have a pair of image stabilized Canons. I just love them. 15 by 45s, just spectacular. So that's what I bring everywhere. But yeah, that sounds like a wonderful time, and especially if you could use this Red Cat in the DSLR for other pictures too, right? Penguins.
Yes, it is apparently meant very well for bird photography and for astrophotography.
Well, yeah,
So.
whales. So that could be great. But I just tell everybody, practice before you leave. I was taking an eclipse cruise, and we were down by Montserrat, which had a volcano that was exploding as the big eclipse started. The ash starts belching out of the top of this volcano, and the ship's captain said, okay, he gave a countdown, and he aimed the ship right towards the eclipse as it was happening. So I had my mom and my sister, my brother, my wife was with our little kids in the pool because they didn't care about the eclipse. And I had a video camera, 8 millimeter. I'm set it up, and I got fiddling with my stuff. As soon as totality started, I pulled the thing off. It stopped. The camera stopped. The video camera completely. I got nothing.
Oh, man. Wow.
Nothing.
That's frustrating.
You know what I
During a
should-
total solar eclipse.
What I should have done to make a better story, I should have just grabbed it and just tossed it right over the side because I was right by the railing. I should have just tossed it.
Wow. Yeah. Practice, especially before a solar eclipse because they're so fleeting.
You only have one shot.
You only got one shot.
And but at one of our meetings, we had Mr. Eclipse talk, and he is spectacular. If you can get him,
Fred Espinoff, yeah.
he's wonderful, and he's really good about preparing. In fact, when he's at an eclipse, he puts up police tape around him.
Wow.
You don't disturb his
Do not
routine.
disturb him.
Yeah.
Nope.
How much time does he need to set up if he's
He gets there a day before.
okay? So yeah, obviously if he's not on a cruise, if it's a cruise, it's a different scenario. But if he's in a fixed location, he'll get there a day before to set up.
It's what he does. And yeah, I'm going to be scoping out my spot for the next one. I'm looking at Texas down by the Mexico border.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I guess in terms of climate, that's probably one of the best locations.
Oh, definitely going to be clear there in April. Yep. And who has the little RV? Is that Brian or Jeremy?
Brian.
And so mine is very similar. So yeah, and so tomorrow I drive 3,000 miles in that.
So where's your destination tomorrow?
Tomorrow I just go to Wisconsin to visit my 93-year-old mother and my sister and my brother. And yep, so it's just a big long destination. But I wanted to go back to I don't know if Jeremy, you saw that for the Lowbrow Club, I did a presentation on the fundamentals of image processing.
Mhm.
And it's software agnostic. It's really the 50,000 foot view. Okay, what are the steps that you got to, no matter what software you're using, what do you got to do? Right? You got to calibrate and align and stack and.
We'd love to get you back to do that for us.
Yeah, I
sometime.
think it'd be good if you've got people who are
Oh,
at that
absolutely,
stage.
we do. We put together a small group and we were meeting pretty regularly, and we have a person that's really a guru at Pix Insight. So he helped us to start running down that path, and several of us started learning with him and actually bought that software and started doing that. But it was clear that there was another pocket of people in that original group that weren't quite committed, because Pix Insight's like $250, $300, or were Photoshop people, So we'd love some more vary the exposure, and get a wider range of options presented to our group.
I have two things to say about that. Is what happens with the Pix Insight is you have the guru start talking and taking it on that path of learning Mandarin Chinese, and you're doing pretty good, but you didn't go back and learn what's a verb, what's a noun, right? You need to know the general framework before you dive into, because it is so powerful but so good. I mean, it is a wonderful program, but Photoshop you can also use for your wedding pictures, and that's what I always tell people when you're starting. If you think you're going to use it for regular photography too, then it's a good tool. But I'd be happy to talk about the basically the fundamentals. Here are the 12 steps. I think it's a 12-step thing, of the fundamentals that everybody has to do, no matter what kind of picture you got, no matter what software, you got to do these 12 things. And
so
then
would it be fair to say, if you're talking to somebody who's like starting from scratch, that's kind of where I am, don't worry about the equipment, get the data, if you have to purchase the data, and just focus on learning the skills of image processing, pick your tool, whether it's Photoshop or Pix Insight, and just spend the next 6 months learning that tool and becoming proficient in the image processing part of it,
right,
before you go back and get the equipment and actually start taking pictures.
You can download pictures, from Hubble and play with them.
Right.
So that's wonderful. Or SLU or whatever, or any of your friends here will give you some, and it's wonderful to just start playing, and you'll just be amazed at what you can do.
Yeah, I thought you made an interesting point too about the partnership aspect. I never really thought about that. If one person likes to be outside, taking pictures and be under the night sky, and battle the elements, whether it's dew and humidity or frost and cold or whatever. One person could gather the data, the other person who likes to be in front of the computer and doing the post image processing, you could partner up and kind of, leverage each other's strengths and preferences, I guess, instead of trying to do everything yourself. So
I've seen it work very well that way. Unfortunately, it's not the way 70% of us work.
right. Because you like to own what you create.
We got the lone wolf syndrome here. We really have a problem, and it was I found it was really bad when I started. I couldn't get help. People who'd invested those hundreds of hours learning all this stuff way back when it was tough to learn. There was no YouTube. They didn't want to be telling you the tricks.
No.
But the world isn't like that today.
Right. We're more open now. I mean, it's all out there anyway, right?
It's all there on YouTube, and there's people are going to tell you, and it is amazing how fast you can learn. And it's really great. And
I found it good. I like Affinity Photo, which is just like a Photoshop. And there are some tutorials out there where you can get the data, and then someone takes you through actually doing a transformation or post processing. And you don't become an expert right away, but you get to at least try it and then see it compared to somebody else with their data.
I think that's wonderful. There's nothing like following along with the actual data, and each step by step right in front of you. That I love that. That's now my friends have been having very good luck with Astropixel Processor, which is an inexpensive little program, and it can do more and more. So APP. Astropixel Processor. So there's more and more of these low-cost processors you can get into. Images Plus is an oldie but goodie if you got a Canon or a Nikon DSLR, and now it's free. The gentleman who developed it now is retired. He's not going to support it anymore. But it's free.
Other questions or comments from anyone?
I didn't get into one thing. Can I share my screen and show you time-lapse videos?
Please. Yeah.
Just tell me, just shut me up. Okay.
Go.
Just shut me up if okay. Because it is a blast to do time-lapse videos. And here we go. Okay, so yeah, that's the shot from it was yesterday morning I got this. It was yesterday morning. Okay. Here is a video I took 9 years ago.
Oh, I had a question.
Are we seeing it good?
Yes.
Yes.
And I got music on it.
Oh, I like how the camera's panning across the scene too.
Well, this is a $300 tracker.
Oh, I see what you did. Okay.
What camera are you using?
This was back when my Canon 5D was brand new. I bet you the shutter has gone 30,000 times since this. And I got tons of bad pixels. But the camera was brand new then 9 years ago. This is the biggest star party in Michigan. And this was 6 hours. And, my processing isn't that great. The sky's kind of brown. Okay, I didn't do a good job. But this is fun.
And this is time lapse, right?
Yeah.
Frame every so many seconds or something.
Right. You just take basically what it was doing is just taking a 30-second shot, 30-second shot, 30-second shot, 30-second shot, 30-second shot for 6 hours.
I got you. Cool.
You're just stacking images and making a video out of it.
And it's, yes, and now with Photoshop, it takes 2 minutes to make a video.
Oh, wow.
You could use just JPEGs. You don't have to use RAW. You can just use JPEGs, and you just pull them into Photoshop and make sure they're sequentially numbered, which there are, right? And then you tell Photoshop it's a sequence, boom, there it is up on screen.
Right.
So it's easy and fun and doesn't cost much.
Yeah, it is fun. And people are moving during those 30-second exposures, but it doesn't matter because you're kind of speeding the video up anyway. So you're not going to see
Exactly.
distortion in the people moving.
Here's a summer camp, Detroit Public Schools summer camp, static shot. And I'm just stacking them up using a free piece of software from Germany called Astrostacker, I think it's called.
Yeah, we know that.
But it just stacks them up.
Wow.
All those airplanes going by.
Mm-hmm.
And so this isn't a video. Well, this is a video, but it's basically taking.
Okay, I see what you're doing. Yeah.
It just stacks the next one, the next one, and the next one, the next one. I had no tracking going on, so the stars move. So this is easy, simple, and costs nothing.
Yeah.
That is cute.
Here is that same summer camp. This is the summer camp for Detroit Public School kids, and this is as it was getting dark. And that's my Star Master. And they have a nasty street light there, as you can see. Nasty, but the full moon was up.
Oh, yeah.
But for a few years, I was just obsessed with time lapses. I made so many time lapses, and it's just fun.
Yeah. This
Here
would
it-
interest me. This is stuff I'd like to work on.
And this again, we're rotating, but we're getting a picture of the full moon coming up. And this is in Arizona.
Now, is this one? This isn't one of your half-speed tricks, is it? This is
No, it's just rotating. You're just
Yeah.
rotating. Yep, you're just panning. You're just
Yeah.
panning.
Was it panning at sidereal, right?
No,
Or-
it's. I think I'm panning. I might be panning double sidereal.
Okay.
See,
Okay.
I'm catching up with Orion there. See that?
Right, right.
So I bet you I'm going at 30 degrees an hour instead of 15,
Okay.
because 15 is sidereal.
Right.
So it is just I just love doing all these time lapses, and I've gotten out of practice.
Now, when you track, are you doing polar alignment first, or how do
No,
you?
no, not at
No,
all.
it doesn't require that. No.
He's horizontal tracking. He's
I'm just-
horizontal panning. He's not
I'm just
tracking.
panning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Panning.
No,
Okay.
no need for anything fancy. This what I was calibrating the scope, taking pictures of stars all around the sky to calibrate the pointing model.
Uh-huh.
And this is the pointing model being done over the course of a couple hours
Which mount?
with that wonderful plane. The Paramount,
This is
Um,
the Paramount. Okay.
the Paramount T,
Okay.
MX.
Oh, okay.
I had the MX, and it's a good mount. But this again is with that fog filter, which bloats the stars, and so it's really good for star color, isn't it?
Right, right.
So you can get a fog filter, and I highly recommend that. That's another trick.
Yeah.
I think Brian, you talk about doing that, don't you?
And I took a time lapse workshop, and this is, for the final project, we had to produce a video with all of our work. And this was taken at Valley of Fire State Park near Vegas.
Wow.
And we did some nighttime and we did daytime. And I highly recommend going on some of these courses because they really teach you all the skills. They had professionals helping out, and I learned so much on composition and the art. I'm not so good at the artwork.
Where are these courses?
Well, usually they're in the West,
Okay.
astrophotography or time-lapse courses. I can put in the chat the gentleman who did mine. He's still doing them. He does a wonderful job.
I thought in the introduction, Jeremy said you did a summer at one of the national parks. Bryce
Right.
Canyon, was it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you ever know a guy named Jim Hill?
Jim Hill?
Yeah, he was he ran a place down in Mississippi called Rainwater Observatory, and he and his wife used to go out in the summers and do Bryce Canyon and as
Yes.
visiting
Yes.
astronomers.
I know Jim. I remember Jim. I did. I was with him for several weeks. Great
Yeah.
guy. His wife was wonderful, and he was so good at everything, especially his solar telescope and doing solar observing. He was so good at that.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
From Mississippi.
Yep, that's him.
Yep.
Rainwater.
Yep.
French
that-
camp,
well,
he was French camp school. And
Right, French Camp School. They taught about yes. This was I think I was with him back in 2013, right about the time I produced this video. So
Okay.
but that's another thing is if people have time, the national parks have telescope programs, and it's a great way to volunteer and have fun. I think I've got here. I got another couple good time lapses. This is a black and white.
Oh,
Just use black and white on that, just to have something different and put a glow effect on the rocks.
yeah.
It's called the City of Rocks State Park in New Mexico. It's the best state park in New Mexico. It's spectacular.
Wow.
This is another shot of just pointing at the North Star.
Let me just track this guy.
Go for several hours,
Yeah.
and use some of the freeware and stack them up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah, he's
tracker
about-
here, Jeremy. It's a stationary camera and a shot. It was, what did you do? Let's see, you got it down here. 16, 12, 14 millimeter f. 16,
30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30
exposure.
seconds, 30. Just keep going 30 seconds. Just go all night.
Yeah,
All night. And at the end of that, if you slow it down, you can see there's a muskrat swimming around in the water at dawn. And I visited the observatory before we invested in it, and that's the full moon going down there. This is the Granite Gap.
oh, okay.
It was a failed astronomy development where a lot of people lost a lot of money.
Wow.
That's a different presentation.
There were a number of those that tried to start up and didn't quite make it.
Yeah, you just have to be careful giving people money for future developments, because sometimes they don't happen.
Risky investment.
So say it's Cherokee Village over in Arkansas.
Okay, all right. Here is, Bryce Canyon. This is the first one I ever did. This was the first one I did. And at Bryce Canyon, they have a wonderful telescope program. They have hundreds of people looking through telescopes every week.
Wow.
Hundreds.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday night. They have like 10 telescopes, and they'll have 100 or 200 people. There's Jim. That's Jim right there.
Yeah,
That was him.
Wow.
But just catching the sunset. There we go. There's Jim setting up. There's all the telescopes in the parking lot. Here's all the visitors.
Wow.
Lots of visitors.
Wow.
Super dark sky. Unbelievably dark. And people come from all over the world to see the night sky there.
Jim was a great teacher.
He really was,
he
and very
loved it.
patient.
Yeah, he was.
And he was from Mississippi. We'd be out there, and I'd be dying in the heat, and he wouldn't even sweat.
One of our best star parties in this area happens there every spring.
Well, he invited me, I think.
He's not there anymore, but the guy that is a pretty good guy, and it's the facility has grown. Lots of nice new equipment, telescopes. A lot of stuff has been donated to them.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It sounds like a wonderful place. Let me show what else you can do. Here's the space station.
Mhm.
Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can see the wings of it right there.
Yeah. You can see the wings.
Yep. Very cool.
Wow.
The Paramount could do this, and the Plane Wave does this.
Yeah.
But you know what's fun? It's fun just to do this with your Dob. Just, with the visually. I strongly urge people with your Dob, just try to follow the space station.
I've
at
tried
like
a couple of times.
20 power, 30 power. You can do it. It's way cool.
That takes some skill tracking it with a Dob.
It takes a little
Pretty cool.
practice. Yeah.
It's fun. But I do love videos just of the lunar eclipse. I just turned the tracking off.
Oh, okay.
I just turned the motor off.
Just let the moon move.
Yeah, there it is. It's just moving like it's normally moving. And it's fun to get little videos, and there's many different pieces of software that allow you to modify or to process videos, and Photoshop is pretty good for simple stuff. And also Photoshop, you can get the educational discount. Is it like $10 a month?
Yeah.
Now what I'll be doing in Texas is this, with EAA, it's a f2.8 telescope with that ZWO camera, and I project things up on the 100-inch screen. So it's kind of like, Rick, what you talk about is, do you project your images on a screen for people to see?
I do. I've got a projector and a screen. I'm looking at maybe a 40-inch flat screen to flip down from the back of my camper or my truck.
I'm able to tell people, hey, this is a big galaxy eating a little one.
Uh-huh.
And it's doing the live stacking, the live stacking with the
Right.
What's that software? SharpCap.
Right.
And so this is EAA, electronically assisted astronomy, and the goal is different in astrophotography, which is a nice picture. This is usually a crappy picture or pretty good picture, but it's quick and it's in person.
Live. Right.
It's live, and it's interactive, and people can watch it develop. And I'm just finding that interests me more nowadays, right? Than the other did.
Well, and this is the beauty of the ASI Air for me, is because it does all of that in that little box, and I access it with my iPad and like a remote desktop feature, right?
Excellent.
And then I just use the HDMI output out of my iPad to the projector, and it's there. That's all the equipment, and
I love it.
yeah. And it does the tracking, the guiding. It does plate solving for centering as it goes to look to the next thing. It plate solves to say, okay, you didn't quite make it, but here, let me fix that for you. And it goes and finds the next thing you told it to go find. And then you just start stacking images live. It does live stacking. And
now, do you find that you have a controversy with some members that don't want to have the bright photography, astrophotography stuff, and want to be, just visual and keep it dark?
There is some.
Well, yeah, and then of course there's the guy that thinks I'm not a real astronomer because I don't. Because I use a computer to locate stuff. Since I started in astronomy, I put encoders on my first Dob so I could have it tell me what it was pointed to. Well, that's not doing it right. I'm an electrical engineer. That's what I do. I'm sorry. I'm going to put some electronics on everything I touch. It's just what I do. If you don't like it, I don't care.
I've just found that it can cause a lot of bad feelings, especially if there are bright lights out there and the visual
Well, yeah, the
folks,
bright light thing.
they get upset about that.
So I typically, when I know those one or two people might be there, I go off to the other end of the field,
Yes, I think that's a good idea. But I have found if you have the public,
Well,
I
the
know where
public-
they're going to end up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There's no competition except maybe with the telescope and Saturn, right?
Yeah.
But it's usually no contest.
Yeah. You can see so much more with the camera than the human eye can pick up through a telescope, even a huge telescope. So, and then of course, whenever we're doing public events in town where we've got light polluted skies, I've got the filters that peer through it and still put some of the contrast back that you lose in the light.
Now, by filters, which ones do you mean?
The L enhanced.
Okay.
I shoot color camera.
Right. And then you're using the drawer.
No. When I'm in town, it's just on the camera.
Okay. Excellent.
And I don't do pictures. I'm about doing live stuff. Now I do. I'll take a bunch of frames and bring them home and process them and play with them and stuff. But that's really not why I'm in this.
No,
I've built this whole outfit into trying to do live visual stuff without having people stand in line 30 people back. I was a scoutmaster for 10 years, and Boy Scouts aren't that patient.
No, I spent this last summer at a Boy Scout camp getting my rig up and running. They were my guinea pigs.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and they don't have a long attention span.
The best thing for a Boy Scout camp is that bright green laser.
Oh yeah. And they want to grab it out of my hand. Actually, I got one of those blue ones that will pop balloons, and it's not good. It's way too it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous. But it has a low setting. I use it on the low setting.
Very good.
But yeah, once you bring out the laser, it's game over. Game over. Yeah.
I will say you can have it both ways. I mean, the technology is great, but you can also develop the skill in finding things manually. Quick example, this morning we got up, again, looking at Comet Leonard, it's near M3, and we got to the site in Moscow, Tennessee, just east of Memphis, and Brian pulls out his binoculars, sets them down, and I mean, within 10 seconds, he had it. He just basically said, here's a quick look. I was setting up my Dob. I know where M3 is, but it takes me a minute to find it. I need my Telrad, I need my viewfinder. I've got to go through the procedure. He had it up in about 10 seconds. And I mean, there was no laser, there was no finder, there was nothing. I'm just like, how did you find that? He just knew basically where it was. And then a couple of seconds later, he's setting up his two DSLRs and he's starting to image it. And this
but that was with the binocular though. So it's a much wider field of view.
It's okay. So you had a wider field of view, but still 90 degrees out and no laser. So
I've never had a finder scope on I've got a 13-inch Coulter Dob, an old Odyssey, right?
Coulter.
Yeah. And
I had one too.
I've never put a finder on it. I've got a Telrad, but then I've got a 32 millimeter Erfel eyepiece, and it's like a big chunk of glass about that big around, and it's I forget what power that is at that focal length, but it's huge. It's a wide field of view, and of course, as you move it across the sky, it's so aspherically bad that it's like the black hole thing they show you on TV as the black hole moves across the things, that everything warps around, but it's great for finding stuff with. It's a great finder.
This was my recent addition from an estate sale,
Oh, yeah.
and wonderful for comet lanyard.
That
100
Brian's
millimeter.
got a pair similar to that.
What are yours from Oberwerk? Oh, he's on
Audio.
mute.
No, it's APM from Germany.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
They
That's Overworks' main competitor.
Yep. But I found out that it's kind of a joy to have to use two eyes,
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
and for
more
public
pleasant.
outreach too. The public really like these, but it's not for kids. That's the problem. You can't have kids because the
Exactly.
kids want to use them, and then you can't get them
Right.
close enough together,
Right.
and then there's frustration and all that. So I
Right.
can only use them with small groups and pretty much adults only.
Yeah.
But boy, they're fantastic for outreach.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Two eyes are better than one, but it can be a little challenging, I would imagine, because everybody's face is a little different and the different distance between their eyes. And so,
Yeah.
Well, and also with kids, it gives them two eyepieces to grab instead of one.
right.
Yeah.
All right. We're coming up on 10 o'clock here. We should probably let you go. We can probably go all night. We got to have you back. I mean, this is a fantastic presentation and a great discussion, but I know you got to hit the road eventually too. So anybody
I
have
wanted
any
to say
other-
one last thing. Is there any Memphis Tiger fans here?
Yeah.
A young man who grew up just 5 miles from here is a Tiger.
Oh, wow.
Amoni Bates, the young 17-year-old. He's going to be the star of the team.
Excellent.
And
Wow.
grew up 5 miles away from me. Yeah, he's
Excellent. Very
spectacular.
He's 17
got-
years old, so he's coming in as a freshman this year. Is that
good.
correct?
Yes, he's 17.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amoni
and he was
Bates.
he was the McDonald's player of the year, high school player of the year as a sophomore.
Wow.
Wow. Is that right? Okay.
I just needs to bulk up a bit.
Uh-huh.
But watch him, Amoni.
Excellent.
He's
Yeah.
amazing.
He could be a one and doneer. We'll see where he goes. in
He's
the,
doing well this year, but I don't think he's a one and done.
okay. All right.
But I think he's two and done.
Yeah, you get all the basketball players on that side of the state. I grew up on the western side of Michigan, and it was always, a big deal if your team could advance far enough to play one of the Detroit teams. And of course, my contemporaries were guys like Chris Webber and Jalen Rose and those guys. The Fab Five were a year ahead of me. So I remember those days when Michigan had that team. So yeah, great crop of basketball players in Eastern Michigan as well as in Memphis. So have to keep an eye on that. That's interesting. So all right.
Brian, thank you very much. This has been incredibly interesting and excellent presentation. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
thanks a
send it
lot,
to you.
Ryan.
You can post it and do whatever you want with it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. Got to check out your Vimeo page as well. Not only your YouTube, but you got some great videos on your
Yeah,
Vimeo.
and they're set to music, so kind of fun, and it just shows you what we can do with just a camera on a tripod.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. That's where I want to go. I want to do the nightscapes, the landscapes, and some of the time lapse stuff. So definitely got to have you back, and definitely got to check out the resources that you mentioned. So I'm just going to go ahead and end the meeting right there. Normally I share the screen, but just check out our website, memphisastro.org, if you want to learn more about us. We will post this presentation to our YouTube channel also, so you can watch it again. I know I'm going to watch it again. And with that, just want to, again, say thank you to Brian Odom for taking the time tonight and sharing this information. And with that, I'll just go ahead and wrap up. Rick, do you have any other closing comments?
I do not. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. A lot of thank yous in the chat room. Yeah, this was a great presentation and a lot of great information. So Brian, thanks again. We would love to have you back. Safe travels.
Thank
And
you.
for everyone else, again, wish you a happy holiday season. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Pay attention to your email for upcoming events, and we will see you on our next presentation. Thanks a lot,
Thanks,
guys.
Brian.
Thank you.